What's up, guys? So, with the new patch 6.3, it came with some updates to Paladin. And real quick, I just wanted to drink my morning coffee and go over some of the information with you guys. So, I have a couple of things pulled up. One being this article here, and then we'll check out a video on it after. So, let's go ahead and read through this article. And I know nothing about the Paladin updates. I haven't played Paladin since Heaven's Word. It was my original starting class before the Dark Knight came out, and then, yeah, Dark Knight is my favorite class fantasy. You know, I played Death Knight in World of Warcraft. I just like big two-handed swords and being able to cast magic and tanking, so I mean, the Dark Knight was perfect for me when it came out. But I have been considering switching it up and trying out some of the other tanks, Warrior and Paladin. I don't really have any interest in the Gunbreaker itself. It just seems like too complicated of a class, plus I don't really like the class fantasy of it. But thinking about trying out the new Paladin rework, so let's go over some of the information that comes along with it. So yeah, with patch 6.3, the Final Fantasy XIV team has fundamentally reworked the Paladin class. Some skills and spells have had their abilities changed completely, and one skill has even returned to the fold. Our standard rotation has changed. Many of the same skills and spells are there, but in new spots. Most likely, it's not enough to vastly change your hotbars, but you do need to know what buttons to press. So I guess this is going to give like a quick overview of the rotation for it. Let's see. Let's start with the new buff that you'll be managing in your rotation. Divine Might. 30-second buff that you'll gain when you use your standard combo enders. So it's a buff that you get when you just by doing your rotation. That's what it sounds like. Divine Might causes your Holy Spirit and Holy Circle spells to have no cast times. Interesting. So like I said, I didn't play Paladin, so I don't know. I'm not sure a lot of what they're talking about. I just know that somewhere in the rotation you switch between physical and magic or something like that. So I assume that's sort of what it's talking about here. Under Divine Might, Holy Spirit jumps from 350 potency to 450, while Holy Circle jumps from 100 to 200. And Requiescat, which now gives you 4 charges of Requiescat buff instead of 5, now also affects the Confiteor combo, meaning Confiteor, Blade of Faith, Blade of Valor, and Blade of Truth all consume a charge on the buff. Don't really understand any of this. I think watching a video on it will help make it a bit more clear. The Divine Might addition turns Holy Spirit and Holy Circle into tools you can use more often outside of the Requiescat spam in previous patches. Both spells become instant after your combo enders, giving you space to use them in your rotations. So yeah, talks about the AoE combo here: Total Eclipse, Prominence, Holy Circle. So it's a 3-button AoE combo, whereas Dark Knights have a 2-button. I think most classes only have a 2-button AoE combo. So yeah, it essentially extends your AoE combo with an additional ability. Interesting, interesting. Single target combo changes, Royal Authority combo, Atonement ×3, Goring Blade combo, Royal Authority combo, Atonement ×3, Requiescat. Interesting. The addition of Divine Might and the changes to Requiescat are joined by a big change to Goring Blade. The latter ability is no longer a dot attack, and it no longer combos with Riot Blade. Instead, it becomes a single attack you drop in between other combos, similar to Gunbreaker's Blasting Zone or Warrior's Upheaval. I'm not familiar with either of those. So it sounds like a filler move that you just drop in. Let's see. Defensive actions. There's also been a few changes to Paladin's defensive capabilities. Many aren't as big as the addition of Divine Might and change to Goring Blade, but they're still worth covering. So let's go over which actions are changing. Sheltron and Holy Sheltron used to block incoming attacks, but now both abilities simply reduce damage by 15%. As a flat damage reduction, this means both should now mitigate damage over time debuffs. Blocking is still a part of the Paladin's kit, though, as the 14 team brought back Bulwark. This defensive cooldown causes the Paladin to block incoming attacks for 10 seconds. This action was previously removed, so it won't be on your hotbars. Make sure to go into actions and traits and add the ability back. A wonderful change was made to Divine Veil as well. The previous version of the action created a protective barrier on you and any party members within a certain area if you were healed by magic after activating it. Now activating the action just gives you and all nearby party members the protective barrier upon activation. So it sounds like there was a lot of conditional stuff that went into their kit, but they're trying to simplify it. So you press the button and something happens, instead of it being relying so much on conditions like being healed by magic or something. Combined with the healing effect you get from Enhanced Divine Veil trait, and the changes improve Paladin spot as the support tank. All in all, it doesn't look like these changes really mess with Paladin's spot in the tank role. That's good. There's a removal of the damage over time reliance, the addition of some combo flexibility, and the change to Divine Veil is a complete winner. In terms of a rework, it's smaller than expected and could have been much worse. It brings the job closer in line with the other tanks, however, which may be a negative to those who prefer each tank to feel more unique. Right now, this is just a rebuilding for the foundation, which will likely carry into patch 7.0. Yeah, there needs to be some sort of homogenization so that all tanks are useful and all tanks are relevant, but it is important to keep each class, to keep an identity for each of the class. All right, let's take a look at this video that I pulled up.
Hey guys, the full patch notes for patch 6.3 are out, and that means that we know all of the job changes coming out in a few hours. Also, Machinist has got what is, in my opinion, the best utility in the game, second only to Combat Revive. I'm not trolling. You heard me.
I'll drop a link to the video in the description also.
The holy grail of utility on a silver platter. More on that later. I'm obviously really freaking happy. But this video also covers the extremely extensive Paladin rework that we've.
So they updated the Machinist a little bit too.
More on that.
Let's take a look at this. Dismantle. Lowers target's damage dealt by 10%. So this is like the Dark Knight ability, Reprisal is what it sounds like. So they're giving this to a DPS. Interesting.
Later, I'm obviously really freaking happy. But this video also covers the extremely extensive Paladin rework that we've only heard a few key details from past live letters on, so this is for sure something to check out. So first up is that Paladin's core rotation really did revolve around a physical cycle of dealing damage under the fight or flight buff, and then moving into a magic cycle once you used Requiescat, which would give you 5 stacks of the Requiescat buff, which is going to enhance the damage of your Holy Spirit and your Holy Circle spender skills. From there, you would transition into Confiteor, into Blade of Faith, into Blade of Truth, and the Blade of Valor as your ending of your combo. That is still there largely. You will still be following a similar pattern, but there are portions of that have definitely been breaking up the rotation of the kit added. So Requiescat now grants 4 stacks of the Requiescat buff, and now on a separate buff, there is going to be the additional effect of being Confiteor ready. This is extremely similar to the before. The only difference is now you can't really mess up Requiescat combo by pressing a 5th Holy Spirit, which I totally need to confess that I, of course, never, not at once, ever did. Yeah, thank you, Yoshipi. Now where things start to really take a turn and get really weird to what we're used to is now your AoE finisher Prominence and one of your melee finishers, Royal Authority specifically, act exactly how they used to. They restore MP. Apparently they buffed Prominence's MP return, so that's nice, but that's not anything shocking. Royal Authority gives 3 stacks of Sword Oath. Yeah, I've been there, done that. But now Prominence and Royal Authority will also give you a buff called Divine Might, which lets you cast Holy Spirit or Holy Circle with no cast time and give you actually a boatload of extra damage, just like you would under Requiescat. How at least I'm modeling it in my own brain is basically you're getting a mini Requiescat charge with each physical 1-2-3 combo, outside of course, when you want to use Goring Blade, which won't give you one of these charges. On the note of Goring Blade, just because I brought up the name, I may as well say that Goring Blade now is simply just straight up 700 potency of damage to the face. Damage over time effect was removed. Now people are going to question, okay, with both Requiescat buff and the Divine Might buff active on my character, which is used first if I use Holy Spirit? Divine Might will be what is prioritized, which is nice because Requiescat is going to be just a nice pleasant little stack of charges charges that you don't need to worry too much about. Obviously, rotation and optimization considerations are going to have to be accounted for there. Also, nice thing is that Holy Sphere did get a slight damage buff, which is nice because we're obviously going to be using it so much more than we were before. Now we're going to move on to the Confederate combo. We're seeing adjustments to numbers, not really a net buff or net nerf. Confederate itself hits 100 less. Blade of Faith, though, hits way harder. Blade of Truth also hits way harder. Blade of Valor's damage over time effect, similar to Goring Blade's damage over time effect, was just removed and packed up into a big chunk of damage. But noteworthy is to say that overall less damage than Blade of Valor used to do with the full damage over time ticks if we really dived into the numbers here. Was it a buff? Is it a nerf? It's a maybe? Kind of all over the place, and I'll wait until we see the final numbers.
Yeah, we'll have to...
More than anything, it's a balancing out.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it does in the upcoming end-game content and see how it does on the parsing and all of that before we can really make a decision if it was a nerf or a buff. The big thing is, as long as it's playable and relevant.
Let's talk about the flip side of that coin, what we lost for all of these changes. So the first thing is that Fight or Flight used to last 25 seconds, it's now down to 20 seconds. There is a ton of very minor potency nerfs to things like Riot Blade, Royal Authority, Atonement. We're seeing more leveling down of the physical side for sure here. Not by anything too significant, I wouldn't worry about it, but we are seeing a little bit of a toning down. With that, let's get into the rest of the Paladin's miscellaneous changes. So first up, Iron Will, the enmity skill, is now getting a new fancy icon to show when you want to remove tank stance.
Yes, this has been very nice. They did this for the Dark Knight too, and I assume they did this for all the tanks, so you can... it actually changes the icon when you have the stance active.
A minor reduction.
Obviously, you can always look at your buffs, to your buff bar, to see if you have the stance active, but it's just a nice little quality of life improvement here.
Recast time, even though it was already only 3 seconds, it's now being brought down to 2. Holy Sheltron was reworked from blocking incoming damage attacks to now being flat out damage reduction, taken by 15%. Thank goodness. Carby damage over time effect early in the tier really haunt me. Help. Those are so bad. They also added a brand new skill, or rather an old skill that we lost, called Bulwark, which is on a shorter 9-second cooldown that will guarantee all attacks are blocked, which is great for pretty much everything other than damage over time effect skills, but it will for sure make an impact on Paladin survivability. This is a very welcome button. It's kind of like Gunbreaker has camouflage with some parry on it. I kind of like Bulwark a lot. Last but absolutely not least is Divine Veil is getting giga buffed for Paladin. I don't know how else to say it, giga buffed. Not needing to worry about putting a heal on a Paladin to activate Divine Veil.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
That's huge. And as a healer, let alone how Paladins feel about this, this is an amazing change. This is going to make the skill feel so much better. Moving on for Paladin, the rest of the tanks just got the same 3-second tank stance cooldown, reduced to 2 seconds just to follow Paladin's lead. Warrior also got a huge buff to shake it off, doubling its duration of its shield from 15 to 30 seconds, and very interestingly enough now has a heal over time component added to it to heal for a cure potency of 100 per tick. This is a separate buff that lasts for 15 seconds.
Wow, that seems huge.
300 upfront burst healing, which we already had with Shake It Off when Shake It Off is used. The big berry that we know and love, and then 500 potency of heal over time effect for a total of 800 potency of healing total underneath this barrier. Monk's Riddle of Earth skill has been reworked. There are no charges anymore. There are no stacks that you go through for your damage mitigation. It now just has a 2-minute cooldown, reduces damage.
See, this video goes over the rest.
10 seconds, and also has a heal over time component to it for the monk themselves, lasting 15 seconds.
We'll finish this video, and then I want to see if there's a video dedicated to the Paladin.
So why does
it might not need to be a thing though. If the whole thing, the articles were saying it's not as big of a rework as they were afraid of, so there might not be too much on it. So yeah, we'll finish this video. See all the little updates to the classes.
My bread and butter. It's in my Thanos gauntlet of I really don't want to deal with this mechanic. Now Sage also gets a lot of perks with bards too. No more of Nature's Menace on a warrior to deploy that big ass scholar barrier, because Bard's Nature's Menace now hits the entire party within a 20-yard radius. Sure, its cooldown is now raised by 30 seconds to 2 minutes, still lines up with the major scholar shields and sage barriers. Sure, it's 5% less, but now it impacts the whole party. This will help white mages and astros out a ton too. Absolutely fantastic buff for bards. Absolutely great. Now Dancer can use Curing Waltz and Shield Samba while dancing. Pure quality of life, but this is quality of life that I absolutely will take and wish I had during Shadowbringers when I was raiding a lot on Dancer. It's a great change. White Mage has the recast time for ass eyes reduced to 40 seconds, so 5 seconds is going to be shaved off, which for every White Mage...
They had their ass size reduced.
It's just gonna translate to a DPS gain. I don't know why anybody
That's a big nerf.
ever complained about this. More ass size is more ass size, and everyone loves ass size. It is solid and thick. Now, Sage, these changes.
Yeah, but they're reducing the ass size,
really
so isn't it technically a nerf?
The same deal as before, has reduced recharge time down from 45 to 40 seconds. Sure, it's only 5 seconds.
Although technically you have more ass size uptime, so.
Times over say I will take it. Give me.
Alright, I'll stop with the jokes. Stop with the ass size jokes.
Second Sage change.
The way to combat it is to wear the 2B pants, of course.
Barriers. And you know what I gotta say?
That was the last one.
Thank you, Yoshi P, from the bottom of my heart, because this is huge for me. I can count on one hand the number of planned Eucrasian diagnosis single target barriers that I use, which is the only way that you used to be able to get Adder Sting. Actually, I need no hands to count how many, because the number, especially on Sage, should be 0 in raids in planned content, but for planned AoE barriers to keep the squishies alive, yeah, Adder Sting is so much better now. This is great. Do you want to spam AoE barriers? No, you still don't want to do that, but it's going to be a way to get Adder Sting way more in a much more organized, way more planned fashion than before. I am a huge fan of this. Now, I saved the best for last because I am really freaking a big fan of these Machinist changes. I'm gonna keep it real short because Machinist is my baby. Gauss Round and Ricochet are your spammed OGCDs. 10 potency on them really translates into a significant amount over the fight. They're the silent heroes during Overheat, Heat Blast, Burst Phase, Hypercharge. Also got the Dark Knight treatment. It now lasts 10 seconds rather than 8. Gives 5 stacks of Overheated to spend, allowing more breathing room. That is going to be excellent, especially for the high ping players that are like really struggling. Obviously with the OGCD weaves, it can still be a little bitey, but it's better. Then we're also seeing some basic combo potency boosts. Extra damage is always a big W to me. Get all of these range physical in line. I think that's fair. And now the creme de la creme. Most creators will probably not search for this, not even mention this in their coverage, but I searched it out and I found it, and the biggest change in the patch notes. Sorry, Paladin Rework, but this is huge to me. Dismantle is a skill Machinists used to have for a very, very, very long time ago in the days of Eld when I was still in high school. And now it's added back and it's improved. It lowers the target's damage, all damage, by 10% for 10 seconds, and they also have Tactician as always. Yeah, so what? The Machinist has amazing utility, and it has been what I have been begging for. I'm like, we could use a shield, we could use a damage mitt, like give it a combat revive.
Yeah, it's a big ability for DPS to have.
Over and over again.
It's huge.
Magic Barrier having that as well.
Yeah, I'll leave a link to this video in the description below. So make sure you guys go give him a like on the video and subscribe to him. Check out his other content. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about right now. But yeah, thanks everybody that stopped by for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe to see more videos from me in the future. Thanks.